Everyone, welcome back to this series on how you jam with another guitar player. I've got Jim here again with me. Good to see you, Jim. Now, today we're going to be having a look at using one of these strange things. It's called a capo. They're quite inexpensive. You can get them from the music shops at different prices. You know, I think this one's about $20 in New Zealand, I am. Or you can get like one that goes on, which is like a fabric one. I don't think they're as good. These are a bit better. What do you think of these, Jim? Do you prefer these ones?
Yeah, they're not too bad. There are simpler ones than that, but yeah.
Oh, okay. There we go. I've picked a bad one, so don't listen to me. Anyway, so what we're going to do today is we're going to take a simple chord progression, and Jim, as usual, he's going to play the regular chords. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the capo on the guitar and show you how it sounds with a capo. So first of all, let's look at what a capo is and where you can put it. Right, now, before we get going with this, I'll just tell you what the chords are to our little song. It's E minor for 2, C for 2, G for 2, and a D for 2. I've just chosen this chord progression because it's in lots of songs and it's a common one that comes up, so it's good to know this. Right, so we've got the chords, that's really good. Now, one thing I want to tell you about using the capo is, and bear with me if you know this already, but a lot of people think what you're going to do with the capo is you're going to stick it anywhere you like. So here I go, I'm going to stick it on the 2nd fret, say, and then I'm going to play exactly the same chords. All right, so let me do that. Now that is the same chords, isn't it? That's what it's the same shapes anyway. E minor, C, G, and D. But what's happening here is this isn't the same chords that Jim is playing. It's not E minor, it's the shape of E minor and the shape of C and the shape of G and the shape of D, but it's not those chords. This E minor now becomes an F sharp minor. I'll explain that in just a sec. So let's just take off the capo for a sec. That works really well if you want to raise the pitch. So you stick the capo on and then you play the same chords, and what that is doing is it's making the sound higher, okay? But what we want to do is play the same chords as Jim. So E minor, C, G and D, but we want to make them sound higher. So that is a complete difference, okay? So we're playing the same chords but higher up. Now, to do that, we can't keep the same shapes. A couple of them we might be able to use. So let me just show you what I think of when I play the capo. First of all, you've really got to know your notes and where your root notes are in your chord. By the root notes, I mean what is the name of the chord. So let me go through a few basics here. If I was to play, say for example, a C chord, all right? Where is the C note in the C chord? Well, it's this one, 3rd fret on the A string, all right? So that's a C note. Keep this in mind if you can. If I play a G chord, there's a G note there on the top, on the 3rd fret of the low E, okay? Now, what about if I play an F chord? Now, I know what you're thinking, an F chord isn't in our progression. Just bear with me a sec. There's the F note on the 1st fret of the high E, F chord there, all right? What about if I played an A minor chord? Could you tell me where the A note is in this chord, A minor? Well, there's a couple of different places. You could play it here, open A, of course, or there's an A there. And this is what I'm going to keep in mind. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play these same chords higher up on the neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the capo on the 7th fret. You could put it anywhere you like, but this is for our little example today. So I'm going to put it on like this, okay? Sometimes the guitars can go a bit out of tune out here. Right, so what we want to do is play the same chords. So what am I going to do? First chord we need is an E minor. Okay, now for E minor, I'm going to play an A minor shape. We get that sound. Now, this is an A minor shape, isn't it? But the tonality, the chord I'm actually playing there, it's an E minor now. Why is that? Why is that an E minor? Well, because if you remember, I said to you before when we played A minor, let me just take this off again. If I play A minor, I said, where's the A note? There it is, here, all right? So now, what I want to do, that's an A minor chord. So if I cut, this shape is a minor shape, so I could kind of move that up. And all I have to do is move it up till that note becomes an E note, then I've got A minor. But if I move it up till that note becomes an E, which is here, that's an E note there on the 9th fret. Now it becomes E minor, okay? Now, of course, A minor, you've got open strings behind it. So we don't have open strings here, do we? So that's why we're putting the capo on. So I put the capo on here on the 7th fret, and now I am playing, that note is an E, so it becomes E minor. So let me just explain that. There's an A, okay? Take that off him. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Play that shape. See, it's E minor there. Great. How that makes sense. Right, so let me just put this back again. Let's see how it sounds. So, yeah, really nice. So that chord now is E minor. Right, what's the next chord? Next chord is a C, isn't it? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a C in this area of the guitar neck. Now, where is the nearest C? Well, it's here. There's a C note on the 8th fret. All right. Now, what shape could we use that goes along with that? You know, what would be a root note there? Well, for the chord, it's going to be our F chord. So now the F chord has become a C because that note now is a C. But the shape is an F. So sometimes when you see these things written down, it will say A minor, F. But which is right, but the tonality is E minor. All right, now, got a couple more chords to go. Next chord is a G chord. So remember, so again, we're looking for a G note. Now, where is it? This is going to be difficult if you don't know your notes. If you don't know them, look at my video on the notes, okay? Really help you out. There's a G. So what shape would go with that? Well, of course, remember when I said the C? Where is the C note? It's there. So if I go up again, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. So now we're going to play the C shape. Alright, so let me... Sounding really nice that high, isn't it? One more chord to go. So the chord we need in the open position is a D. So now, could we move that shape up? We could D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. Yeah, we could put it there, isn't it? But so we could play that, but we've got to be careful of that string because that isn't in the chord, so that shape isn't going to work. That would be a G chord if you just played those strings. It's sorry, we want a D chord, don't we? Sorry. Right. So a D. The nearest place for a D, there's D. All right. The nearest place for a D would be there. So that's not going to work. So if I played, you know, oh, see what I mean? That's not going to work. So we need another D. Right, here's a D on the 10th fret of the low E string. All right. And what shape goes along with that? Think about your G, the G note here, right? Okay. Now we need to get the D note. G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. What shape goes along with that? Well, it's the G shape, isn't it? So you're just moving that shape up to there, and then we get this. So let me recap, all right? The A minor now is E minor. The F becomes a C. Why? Because that note is a C. This C chord now becomes a G chord because that is your root, that's a G note. And the last chord we want is a D. Okay, and that's the G shape, but the tonality of the chord now is a D. So what we started with is what Jim's going to play in just a sec, or we'll have a jam, is E minor, C, G, and a D, all right? Now, I've chosen to put the capo up here on the 7th fret, and now we've got E minor, C, G, D. All right, so let's see how this is going to sound with the capo and with these chords. So here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Go one more time. There we go. So that makes a really big difference, doesn't it? Playing with the capo, it gives it that lift. And when you're doing that, you can do the same old tricks that we looked at before, where we're like hammering onto notes. You can try that, like I said before in the other lesson, have a go with that. So that sounds better, you know, if you kind of add these little things. That one sounds nice, doesn't it? That's the G shape, but we're playing a D chord there. That's a nice one to do. That's good. So try those ideas out. See how you go with another guitar player.